The world didn't see Clara Vance. Not really. To the polished residents of Willow Creek, she was just the quiet lesbian mother scraping by, her life a whisper against their symphony of wealth and judgment. But Clara saw everything. Every sidelong glance, every hushed whisper at the grocery store, every time her daughter Lily's teachers hesitated before shaking her hand. She carried the weight of their disdain like a stone in her pocket, heavy but familiar. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that Clara held a secret worth $100 million, tucked away like a promise she'd made to herself long ago. It was a humid summer evening in Willow Creek, North Carolina, the kind where the air clung to your skin and fireflies blinked lazily in the dusk. Clara sat on her porch, a modest two-bedroom rental with peeling paint and a creaky swing, watching Lily chase a stray cat through the overgrown yard. At 8 years old, Lily was all elbows and dreams, her dark curls bouncing as she laughed. Clara's partner, Elise, leaned against the porch railing, her blonde hair catching the last rays of sunlight. "She's gonna be a handful someday," Elise said, her voice soft but laced with pride. "Someday," Clara chuckled, brushing a strand of her own short hair behind her ear. "She's already got me wrapped around her finger." But her smile faded as she caught sight of Mrs. Hargrove, the neighborhood's self-appointed moral compass, staring from across the street. The older woman's lips pursed, her eyes narrowing at the sight of Clara and Elise together. Clara's chest tightened. She was used to it, the looks, the whispers, but it never stopped stinging. 17 years ago, Clara had been a different person. A rising star at a New York tech startup, she'd built an algorithm that revolutionized data encryption. Her work was worth millions, but when she came out at 22, her conservative family cut her off, and her colleagues began to sideline her. Then came the betrayal. Her business partner, David, stole her work, sold the company for $100 million, and left her with nothing but a non-disclosure agreement and a broken heart. Pregnant and alone, Clara fled to Willow Creek, where no one knew her name or her past. She'd buried her fortune in a trust, untouchable until the right moment, determined to give Lily a life free from the pain she'd endured. Now at 39, Clara worked as a part-time librarian, her days filled with shelving books and helping kids with homework. Elise, a nurse at the local clinic, was the light in her storm, the one who'd stayed through every hardship. They'd met 5 years ago at a community potluck, where Elise's warm laugh and fierce loyalty broke through Clara's walls. Together they raised Lily, shielding her from the town's prejudices as best they could. But Willow Creek was small, and its heart was smaller still. That night, as Clara tucked Lily into bed, her daughter's question caught her off guard. "Mama, why does Mrs. Hargrove always look mad when she sees you and Mommy Elise?" Lily's brown eyes were wide, searching for answers Clara wasn't ready to give. "She's just set in her ways, sweetheart," Clara said, brushing a curl from Lily's forehead. "Some people don't understand families like ours, but that doesn't make us any less of one." Lily frowned, unconvinced. "I don't like her. She makes you sad." Clara's throat tightened. She kissed Lily's forehead, whispering, "You make me happy. That's all that matters." But as she turned off the light, her resolve hardened. She'd spent years hiding, letting the town's judgment chip away at her. No more. The secret she'd guarded for so long, the millions she'd reclaimed through a quiet lawsuit against David, was her weapon, and she'd wield it when the time was right. The next morning, Clara walked Lily to school, ignoring the usual stares from other parents. At the library, she overheard a group of women gossiping about the upcoming wedding of Emily Hargrove, Mrs. Hargrove's daughter. Emily, a poised 25-year-old, was marrying into one of Willow Creek's wealthiest families, the Carters. The town buzzed with excitement, but Clara felt a pang of unease. Emily had been kind to Lily once, years ago, but her mother's influence loomed large. Clara wondered what kind of woman Emily had become. As the day wore on, Clara's thoughts drifted to her own past. She'd never told Elise about the money, not because she didn't trust her, but because she wanted their love to be real, untainted by wealth. Elise deserved better than a life built on secrets, but Clara wasn't sure how to bridge the gap between her past and their present. She only knew one thing: she'd do anything to protect her family. That evening, Elise came home exhausted, her scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. She dropped onto the couch beside Clara, her head resting on Clara's shoulder. "Rough day," Elise murmured. "Mrs. Hargrove was in the clinic again, complaining about everything. She saw us holding hands last week, you know. Called it inappropriate." Clara's jaw clenched. "She's got no right to judge us." "I know," Elise said, squeezing Clara's hand. "But she's got influence. People listen to her. And with Emily's wedding coming up, she's worse than ever." Clara stared out the window, her mind racing. The wedding. It was the event of the year, a spectacle of wealth and status. An idea began to form, daring and dangerous. What if she could use the wedding to turn the tables on Willow Creek? To show them who she really was? The thought sent a thrill through her, but it was laced with fear. She'd spent so long hiding. Could she risk exposing her secret? As the days passed, Clara began to plan. She contacted her old lawyer, a woman who'd helped her win the lawsuit against David. The trust was still secure, its contents untouched. Clara's heart pounded as she outlined her idea. A gesture so bold it would rewrite her story in Willow Creek's eyes. But it wasn't just about her. It was for Lily, for Elise, for every moment they'd been made to feel less than. She'd wait until the wedding, when the whole town would be watching. By the end of the week, Clara had made her decision. She'd attend Emily's wedding, not as the poor lesbian mother they all pitied, but as someone they'd never forget. She didn't know yet how she'd pull it off, but the fire in her chest told her it was possible. For the first time in years, Clara felt alive. The weeks leading up to Emily Hargrove's wedding were a blur of anticipation and tension in Willow Creek. The town streets were adorned with banners, and the Carter estate, a sprawling mansion on the outskirts, was being transformed into a fairy tale venue. Clara watched it all with a quiet intensity, her plan taking shape in the shadows of her everyday life. She moved through her routine library shifts, school pickups, dinners with Elise and Lily, but her mind was elsewhere, calculating, imagining the moment she'd step out of the margins and into the spotlight. Elise noticed the change. One night, as they washed dishes together, she nudged Clara's shoulder. "You're quiet lately. Something on your mind?" Her green eyes searched Clara's, soft but probing. Clara hesitated, the weight of her secret pressing against her ribs. "Just thinking about the future," she said, forcing a smile. "For us. For Lily." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Elise deserved to know, but Clara couldn't risk telling her yet. The plan was too fragile, too dependent on timing. Elise raised an eyebrow but didn't push. "As long as you're okay," she said, drying her hands and pulling Clara into a quick hug. The warmth of her embrace grounded Clara, reminding her why she was doing this. It wasn't just about proving the town wrong. It was about building a world where Lily could grow up proud, unashamed of her mothers. At the library, Clara overheard more gossip about the wedding. Emily's dress was custom-made, flown in from Paris. The Carters had hired a celebrity chef. The guest list included half the town's elite, but Clara knew she and Elise wouldn't be invited. Not that she cared about their approval, she'd stopped seeking that years ago. But the exclusion stung, a reminder of the walls Willow Creek built around families like hers. One afternoon, while shelving books, Clara caught sight of Emily Hargrove herself. The young woman, elegant in a tailored blazer, was browsing the fiction section. Clara watched her from behind a stack of novels, noting the way Emily's shoulders slumped when she thought no one was looking. There was a sadness there, a crack in her polished exterior. Clara remembered the little girl who'd once shared her crayons with Lily at a school event, before Mrs. Hargrove's influence had pulled her away. On impulse, Clara approached. "Need help finding something?" she asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Emily startled, then smiled faintly. "Oh, hi. Clara, right? I'm just looking for something to escape into." Her voice was soft, almost vulnerable. Clara nodded, sensing an opening. "Weddings can be overwhelming," she said carefully. "All that pressure to be perfect." Emily's eyes flickered with something. Guilt, maybe, or recognition. "Yeah, my mom's got everything planned to a T. Sometimes I wonder if it's even my wedding." She laughed, but it was hollow. Clara wanted to say more, to ask about the girl who'd once been kind to Lily, but she held back. Instead, she handed Emily a worn copy of Jane Eyre. "This one's about finding your own strength," she said. "Might help." Emily took the book, her fingers lingering on the cover. "Thanks," she said, and for a moment their eyes met. Clara saw a flicker of the person Emily might be, beneath her mother's shadow. That encounter stayed with Clara as she refined her plan. She'd need access to the wedding, a way to make her move without drawing suspicion. The trust held her fortune. $100 million, carefully invested over the years, but money alone wasn't enough. She needed a stage, a moment that would resonate. The wedding was perfect. A symbol of Willow Creek's values, its hierarchies, its exclusions. Clara would turn it into something else entirely. She began reaching out to old contacts from her tech days, people who'd known her before Willow Creek. Her lawyer connected her with a discreet event planner, someone who could pull strings without asking too many questions. Clara's idea was bold. She'd sponsor a lavish addition to the wedding, something so generous it would force the town to see her differently. But it had to be anonymous, at least at first. She didn't want pity or praise. She wanted impact. By the end of the month, Clara had secured a deal. She'd fund a spectacular reception feature, a custom-built outdoor pavilion, complete with live music and a light show, presented as a gift to the community, from an anonymous donor. The Carters, thrilled at the prospect of elevating their status, agreed without hesitation. Mrs. Hargrove, ever the opportunist, saw it as a chance to boast. Neither knew Clara was behind it. As the wedding drew closer, Clara's nerves frayed. She confided in Elise about small things, her frustration with the town, her dreams for Lily, but kept the money and the plan locked away. Elise sensed the weight Clara carried but trusted her enough to wait. Their love was a quiet anchor, steady even in the storm of Clara's thoughts. One evening, Lily came home with a crumpled flyer for the wedding's open community reception, a last-minute addition thanks to Clara's donation. "Can we go, Mama?" she asked, her eyes bright. "They say there'll be fireworks." Clara's heart skipped. This was her chance to attend, not as an outcast but as part of the crowd. "Maybe," she said, ruffling Lily's hair. "We'll see." That night, as Elise slept beside her, Clara lay awake, her mind racing with possibilities. The pavilion, the music, the lights, it was all coming together. But the real test would be the wedding itself. Could she pull it off? Could she reveal her secret without losing the life she'd built? The answers were out there, waiting in the glow of a summer night that would change everything. The morning of Emily Hargrove's wedding dawned bright and clear, the kind of day that felt like a promise. Willow Creek buzzed with excitement, cars streaming toward the Carter estate, where white tints gleamed against manicured lawns. Clara stood in her small kitchen, pouring coffee, her hands steady despite the storm in her chest. Today was the day. After years of silence, she'd step into the light, not for herself but for Lily, for Elise, for the family they'd fought to build. Elise caught her eye from across the room, where she was braiding Lily's hair. "You sure you're up for this?" she asked, her tone gentle but laced with concern. "We don't have to go. It's their circus, not ours." Clara smiled, a mix of nerves and resolve. "I want to," she said. "For Lily. She deserves to see the fireworks." It was half the truth. Elise nodded, trusting her, and Clara's heart ached with the weight of what she hadn't shared. Soon she promised herself. After today she'd tell Elise everything. Lily bounced in her seat, wearing a sundress Clara had sewn herself. "Will there be cake, Mama?" she asked, her excitement infectious. "Lots of cake," Clara said, laughing despite herself. She glanced at the clock. They had to leave soon. Her plan hinged on precision, the pavilion, the lights, the moment she'd reveal her hand. She'd arranged for her lawyer to be there, discreetly overseeing the donations reveal. The town would know the truth, but only when she was ready. At the Carter estate, the wedding was a spectacle. Roses spilled over trellises, and a string quartet played as guests in tailored suits and flowing dresses mingled. Clara, Elise and Lily arrived at the community reception, a sprawling lawn event open to all thanks to Clara's anonymous gift. They blended into the crowd, but Clara felt the familiar sting of eyes on her, Mrs. Hargrove's friends whispering behind their champagne flutes. Lily didn't notice. She ran toward a table piled with desserts, her laughter cutting through the hum of conversation. Elise squeezed Clara's hand. "She's happy," she said. "That's what matters." Clara nodded, but her focus was elsewhere. The pavilion stood at the far end of the lawn, a stunning structure of glass and wood, draped in fairy lights. It was her creation, though no one knew it yet. The event planner had outdone herself, and the Carters were basking in the praise. Clara overheard snippets of conversation. "Who funded this?" "Some wealthy donor, they say." She kept her face neutral, her heart pounding. As the sun set, the reception shifted to the pavilion for speeches. Emily and her groom, James Carter, stood hand in hand, radiant but stiff under the weight of expectation. Mrs. Hargrove took the microphone, her voice dripping with pride. "This wedding is a testament to our values," she said, her eyes sweeping the crowd. "To family, tradition, and community." Clara's stomach twisted. Tradition. The word felt like a slap, a reminder of every time she'd been told her family didn't belong. She glanced at Elise, who was watching Mrs. Hargrove with a clenched jaw. Lily, oblivious, munched on a cupcake nearby. Then it was time. The event planner stepped forward, introducing the anonymous donor's gift. "This pavilion," she said, "was funded by someone who believes in love, in community, and in second chances." The crowd murmured, intrigued. Clara's lawyer, a sharp woman in a navy suit, handed the planner a sealed envelope. "The donor has asked to share a message." Clara's pulse raced as the planner opened the envelope. She'd written the words herself late at night, pouring her heart into every line. The planner read aloud. "To Willow Creek, from someone you've overlooked. This gift is for every family that's been judged, for every child who deserves to dream. Love is not defined by your rules. It is defined by those who live it." A hush fell over the crowd. Mrs. Hargrove's smile faltered, her eyes darting as if searching for the culprit. Clara stood still, her hand in Elise's, waiting for the moment she'd planned. The planner continued. "The donor wishes to remain anonymous but dedicates this to their daughter, a child of this town, who deserves to grow up proud." Whispers erupted. Clara felt Elise's grip tighten, a question in her touch. She met Elise's eyes, offering a small nod. Not yet, but soon. The pavilion's lights flared to life, a cascade of colors that drew gasps from the crowd. Fireworks burst overhead and Lily squealed, tugging at Clara's sleeve. "Mama, look." Clara looked, but her mind was on the envelope's final instruction. Her lawyer would ensure the donation source was revealed later, after the wedding, when the town would learn that Clara Vance, the poor lesbian mother, had funded their spectacle. For now, she let the moment belong to Lily, to the joy on her daughter's face. As the night wore on, Clara noticed Emily watching her from across the pavilion. Their eyes met, and Emily offered a small, hesitant smile. Clara returned it, wondering if Emily understood the message, if she felt the weight of her mother's world. There was a story there, one Clara didn't yet know, but it stirred something in her. A hope that change was possible, even in a place like Willow Creek. The fireworks faded, and the crowd began to disperse. Clara, Elise, and Lily walked home under a starlit sky, Lily chattering about the lights and the cake. Elise was quiet, her hand still in Clara's. "That message," she said finally, her voice low. "It felt personal." Clara's heart skipped. "It was," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll explain everything. Tomorrow." Elise studied her, then nodded. "I trust you," she said, and the words were a lifeline. Clara knew the hardest part was still ahead, telling Elise the truth, facing the town's reaction. But for now she held her family close, the weight of her secret lighter under the stars. The morning after the wedding, Willow Creek was alive with gossip. The anonymous donor's message had spread like wildfire, whispered over coffee at the diner, debated in church pews. Clara woke to the sound of Lily humming in the kitchen, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Elise was already at the clinic, her shift starting early, leaving Clara alone with her thoughts and the weight of what she was about to do. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, staring at the phone. Her lawyer had texted. The reveal was set for noon. A press release to local media naming Clara as the donor. The pavilion, the lights, the fireworks, all of it would be tied to her name. She'd be exposed, not just as wealthy, but as someone who'd chosen to hide in plain sight. The thought made her stomach churn, but there was no turning back. Lily bounded in, holding a drawing of the fireworks. "Mama, can we go back to the wedding place?" she asked, her eyes bright. It was so pretty. Clara forced a smile. "Maybe, sweetheart. But today's gonna be a big day." She didn't elaborate, but Lily's innocence steadied her. This was for her daughter, for the world she wanted Lily to inherit. At the library, Clara tried to focus on work, but the whispers followed her. "Did you hear about the donor?" one patron said to another. "Some mystery woman. Probably an outsider." Clara kept her head down, shelving books, her heart pounding. By 11:30, her phone buzzed with another text from her lawyer. "It's done. Check the news." She slipped into the break room and opened her phone. The Willow Creek Gazette's website had the headline, "Local Librarian Revealed as $100 million Wedding Donor." The article detailed her past, the tech genius, the stolen algorithm, the quiet lawsuit that won her fortune back. It painted her as a hero, but Clara knew better. Willow Creek didn't like heroes who challenged their norms. By noon, her phone was flooded with notifications. Friends, coworkers, even strangers reached out, some with congratulations, others with thinly veiled suspicion. She ignored them all, focusing on the one call she dreaded, Elise. She'd promised to tell her everything today, but the news had beaten her to it. When Clara picked Lily up from school, the stares were different. Bolder. Some parents avoided her eyes. Others gawked openly. Lily noticed, her small hand tightening in Clara's. "Why's everyone looking at us, Mama?" "They're just surprised," Clara said, her voice calm despite the knot in her chest. "People like stories, and we're a big one today." At home, Elise was waiting. She stood in the living room, arms crossed, her face a mix of hurt and confusion. The Gazette article was open on her phone, lying on the coffee table. "Clara," she said, her voice tight. $100 million? And you didn't tell me?" Clara's throat closed. She set Lily up with a coloring book in her room, then faced Elise. "I wanted to," she said, her voice breaking. "But I was scared. Not of you, of what it would change. I didn't want you to love me for the money." Elise's eyes softened, but the hurt lingered. "I don't care about the money, Clara. I care that you kept this from me. We're supposed to be a team." "We are," Clara said, stepping closer. "Everything I've done, the pavilion, the wedding, it was for us. For Lily. To show this town we're not less than them." Elise exhaled, running a hand through her hair. "I get why you did it. But you should have trusted me." Clara nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I know. I'm sorry. I'll never keep anything from you again." They stood in silence, the weight of the moment heavy between them. Then Elise reached for Clara's hand, pulling her into a hug. "We'll figure this out," she whispered. "Together." The rest of the day was a whirlwind. Reporters called, wanting interviews. Neighbors knocked, some curious, others apologetic. Mrs. Hargrove sent a curt note, thanking Clara for the pavilion but pointedly avoiding any warmth. Clara didn't care. She'd done what she set out to do. She'd shaken Willow Creek's foundations. That evening, Emily Hargrove showed up at their door. Clara was stunned, but she invited her in. Emily, still in a sweater from the wedding festivities, looked nervous. "I read the article," she said. "Your message at the wedding, it hit me. My mom. She's always been so hard on you. On people like you. I'm sorry." Clara studied her, seeing the same vulnerability she'd glimpsed in the library. "You don't have to apologize for her," she said gently. "But you can choose who you want to be." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening. "I want to be better. For myself. For this town." After she left, Clara felt a shift. Not everyone would change, Mrs. Hargrove never would. But Emily's visit was a crack in the wall. Maybe Willow Creek could learn. Maybe Lily's future could be brighter. As night fell, Clara sat with Elise and Lily on the porch, the stars bright above. The secret was out, the plan complete. But the real work, building a life without shadows, was just beginning. The days after the reveal were a storm of attention. Clara's quiet life as a librarian was gone, replaced by a spotlight she both craved and feared. Reporters camped outside her house, their cameras flashing as she walked Lily to school. The townsfolk of Willow Creek split into camps. Some admired her, others whispered she deceived them. Clara didn't care about their opinions anymore. She cared about her family and the fragile trust she was rebuilding with Elise. Elise was still processing the truth. Over breakfast she'd ask small questions about the lawsuit, the tech world, why Clara had stayed silent so long. Clara answered honestly, peeling back layers of her past. "I was ashamed," she admitted one morning, stirring her coffee. "Not of who I am, but of how I let them take everything. I wanted to be someone new here. Someone you could love." Elise reached across the table, her fingers brushing Clara's. "I do love you," she said. "Money or no money. But I need time to catch up." Clara nodded, grateful for her patience. She knew trust wasn't rebuilt in a day. Meanwhile, Lily seemed unfazed by the chaos, asking if they could buy a bigger swing set now. Clara laughed, promising to think about it, but her focus was on something bigger, using her wealth to make a difference. She met with her lawyer, Sarah, in a quiet cafe outside town. Sarah, a no-nonsense woman with a knack for strategy, laid out options. "You've got the money to change things," she said. "A foundation, scholarships, community programs, whatever you want. But it'll keep you in the spotlight. You ready for that?" Clara thought of Lily, of the kids at school who teased her for having two moms. She thought of Elise, working long shifts at the clinic to serve a town that judged her. "I'm ready," she said. "Let's start with education. Scholarships for kids who don't fit Willow Creek's mold." Sarah grinned. "That's my girl. Let's make them squirm." Back home, Clara began sketching plans for a foundation focused on inclusivity. She wanted to fund programs for queer youth, for single parents, for anyone the town overlooked. But the work was interrupted by a knock at the door. It was James Carter, Emily's new husband, looking uncomfortable in his pressed suit. "I owe you an apology," he said, shifting on his feet. "My family, we didn't know who you were. We should have invited you to the wedding, not just the reception. Emily's been talking about you, about what you did. It's made us think." Clara was stunned. The Carters were Willow Creek royalty, untouchable in their wealth. "Thank you," she said carefully. "But it's not about apologies. It's about doing better." James nodded. "We want to help. Whatever you're planning next, let us know." After he left, Clara felt a spark of hope. The Carters' support could shift the town's tides. But not everyone was on board. Mrs. Hargrove organized a town hall meeting, claiming the pavilion was a publicity stunt to undermine traditional values. Clara heard about it from a coworker and decided to attend, not to confront but to listen. The meeting was packed, the air thick with tension. Mrs. Hargrove stood at the podium, her voice sharp. "We don't need outsiders or their money telling us who we are," she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. Clara sat in the back unnoticed, her heart pounding. A few people nodded, but others shifted uncomfortably. Emily was there, her face tight, saying nothing. Then a voice broke through. A teenager, no older than 16, stood up. "Maybe we need to change," he said, his voice shaking. "My brother's gay. He left town because of people like you. Clara's money built something beautiful. What have you built?" The room fell silent. Mrs. Hargrove's face reddened, but she had no reply. Clara's eyes stung with tears. She hadn't expected allies, not here. As the meeting ended, the teenager found her, introducing himself as Sam. "Thank you," he said simply, "for showing us we're not alone." Clara hugged him, her resolve strengthening. She went home and told Elise about the meeting, about Sam, about the foundation. Elise listened, her eyes softening. "You're doing something big," she said. "I'm proud of you." That night, Clara lay awake, thinking of the teenager's courage, of Emily's quiet rebellion, of Lily's unshakable joy. The money was a tool, but the real power was in the connection she was building. Willow Creek was changing slowly, and she was part of it. Months passed and Clara's foundation took shape. Named Open Hearts, it launched with a scholarship program for marginalized youth, funded by a portion of her fortune. The announcement drew national attention and Willow Creek found itself in the spotlight, not as a bastion of tradition, but as the home of a woman rewriting its story. Clara embraced the attention, using it to amplify her message. Love was stronger than judgment. Elise became her partner in every sense, helping plan community events and speaking at fundraisers. Their relationship deepened, the trust they'd nearly lost now stronger than ever. Lily, now 9, began to understand her mother's work, proudly telling her friends about the cool stuff they were doing. But not everyone was on board. Mrs. Hargrove and her allies pushed back, spreading rumors that Clara's wealth was tainted, or her motives self-serving. Clara ignored them, focusing on the lives she was touching. Open Hearts funded after-school programs, mental health resources, and safe spaces for queer kids. Sam, the teenager from the town hall, became a regular volunteer, his quiet courage inspiring others. Emily, too, began to break free from her mother's shadow, attending foundation events and speaking openly about inclusivity. One spring afternoon, Clara received an invitation that stopped her cold. Emily and James wanted to host a gala for Open Hearts at the Carter estate. It was a gesture of alliance, a public statement that the town's elite were backing her. Clara hesitated. She didn't trust grand gestures, but Elise convinced her. "This is your moment," she said. "Show them who you are." The gala was a spectacle, the estate glowing with lanterns and music. Clara wore a simple dress, refusing to play the part of the wealthy heiress. Elise stood beside her, radiant in emerald green, and Lily stole the show in a sparkly tiara. The crowd included new faces, activists, donors, even a few reporters, but also familiar ones like Sam and his family, who'd become close allies. During her speech, Clara looked out at the sea of faces. "I came to Willow Creek to hide," she said, her voice steady. "But I stayed to fight. Not against you, but for us, all of us. For my daughter, for my partner, for every kid who feels like they don't belong. This foundation is my promise to them." The applause was thunderous, but Clara's eyes were on Elise, who wiped away a tear. Later, as they danced under the stars, Elise whispered, "You did it. You changed this place." Clara shook her head. "We did it. You, me, Lily, everyone who believed in us." The gala marked a turning point. Willow Creek didn't transform overnight, but the tide was shifting. Mrs. Hargrove's influence waned, her voice drowned out by a growing chorus of support. Clara's wealth opened doors, but it was her heart, her family's heart, that kept them open. As summer approached, Clara began planning the next phase. A community center for all of Willow Creek, a place where differences were celebrated. She and Elise scouted locations, dreaming of a space where Lily could grow up proud. The work was exhausting, but it filled Clara with purpose. One evening, as they sat on their porch, Lily asleep inside, Elise took Clara's hand. "I'm glad you told me," she said. "About the money, about everything. It makes me love you more, you know." Clara's heart swelled. "I don't deserve you," she said, kissing Elise's knuckles. "You do," Elise replied, smiling. And Willow Creek starting to see it too. The stars above were bright, and for the first time Clara felt like she belonged, not just to her family, but to the town she'd once despised. The fight wasn't over, but she wasn't alone anymore. Years later, Willow Creek was unrecognizable. The community center, named Lily's Place, stood at the heart of town, its doors open to everyone. Clara's foundation had grown, funding programs across the state, but her heart remained in Willow Creek, where she and Elise had built a legacy of love. Lily, now a teenager, was thriving, her confidence a testament to the world her mothers had fought for. The turning point had been the gala, but the real change came in the quiet moments. Neighbors inviting Clara and Elise to barbecues, teachers embracing Lily's family, kids like Sam finding their voices. Even Mrs. Hargrove had softened, her influence fading as Emily carved her own path. Emily and James became allies, their wealth amplifying open hearts' reach. Clara never forgot the weight of her secret, or the fear of revealing it. But she also never forgot the joy of that first gala, when Elise danced with her under the stars, or the pride in Lily's eyes when she cut the ribbon at Lily's place. The $100 million had been a tool, but it was their love, their family, that had changed everything. One summer evening, as Clara and Elise sat on their porch, now part of a renovated home they bought together, Lily ran out with news. "I got into the art program," she said, waving an acceptance letter. "They said my essay about our family was the best." Clara pulled her into a hug, tears in her eyes. "You're the best," she said. Elise joined them, her laughter filling the air. As the sun set, Clara looked at her family, at the town beyond. Willow Creek had judged her, diminished her, but she'd risen above it, not with anger but with love. The secret she'd hidden at Emily's wedding had become a beacon, lighting the way for others. And in that light Clara found her truth. She was enough, always had been.